So yeah, what's up, y'all? Let's get into the conversation. I am tripping today, so y'all gotta bear with me. I've been struggling. Jazz knows my struggles I've been dealing with since I started today. But let's get into it. If I could figure this out, I got y'all, I promise.
You got it.
All right.
You got it.
I got it. All right, y'all can see this. Let's play this portion.
Your value based upon your income.
Right.
And so what are you finding in yourself in these days? Let me ask you this. Do you desire marriage?
If I died tomorrow and I wasn't a wife, it wouldn't bother me.
No, because you'd be dead.
Yeah.
So when people say stuff,
but let me tell you why. Because because there's some people that are like, if I don't get married, it's the biggest regret.
None of that matters once you die.
No, but you got to hear me out, because I felt like becoming who I was born to be. So let me talk about people always say engagements don't count. And my engagement changed my life, and it helped me understand me, because I feel like most women we're sold the Cinderella story of marriage, right? So when I was young, I was sold the Cinderella story, like, oh, you meet somebody, Prince Charming. So I did what we recommend girls do. I went to college, I went to Hampton University, got into a relationship. After college, we got engaged. And I remember, it's so funny, my mother, everybody was happy. My daddy said to me, he was like, you are not ready to be anybody's wife. My dad knew. He said, you are so ambitious that you're going to have to give up everything of who you really are to be this man's wife. And I remember being so mad at my dad, because I was like, I would think you would be happy, right? But he knew me. So one thing I loved about my engagement is that me and my ex-fiance, we took it serious. And we were like, if we get married, it's me and you until Jesus. Yep. Like, no matter what, if we do this, we end this. And having that pact in the beginning caused us both to really take this as a serious thing. What we learned was we had a real love for each other, but we had different life plans. And somebody was going to have to give up their life plan in order for the family to work. Now, at this time, I'm young. I'm in my 20s. I'm starting off in radio. I'm a graduate from Hampton University, but my first radio job, I made $7 an hour. And I'll never forget.
So let's not get into the details of that. I wanted to get into the quick discussion of one part that she actually spoke about was her being in her 20s in college, and that if she did get married at that age, that one of them would have had to give up a lifestyle. So what I would like to get into is the importance to me, and I don't know about to everyone else, of marriage and finding it when you're young. When is it appropriate for us to actually start to focus on marriage and relationships? Or should it just be one of those things that's up in the air whenever you choose? I would like our new panelists to start the conversation. So Jazz, I'm looking at you. What up? What up?
Oh, the hot seat. Okay. I would say, just from your initial question, I took the waiting route, and I've seen the effects of that, right? I didn't take it serious. I didn't look for marriage in a way of like, oh, I want to be intentional of having a husband. And going with the flow can have you flow into who knows. So I believe it's important that, there's no age requirement, but the sooner the better in knowing who you are, knowing what you want. And for me, especially knowing I want God in my life and to what he made marriage to be, knowing ahead of time that, yes, the goal is to be a wife and have a husband. So that while dating again, while meeting a man, I have this intention of the long-term goal. I would make better choices in the moment. I also can relate to something that she mentioned in that video, which is, the Cinderella effect. I call it the Disney effect. I feel like we all need to sue Disney on what they did to us, because I grew up watching that, and I think it messed up my expectation a bit, right? Of this Prince Charming, of this whirlwind romance. And it's nothing wrong with wanting love and romanticizing your life, but I think it set an unrealistic expectation of, I'm a damsel in distress, or I'm a princess, if you will, and there's going to be a prince that's just going to show up and just fix everything, right? Just save me. It's going to be great. And it wasn't, it's not realistic. There's still work that I had to do. And, you know, I have to be that princess, if you will, or that wife, or whatever it is that I'm looking to receive from someone. Am I even making sure that I meet that?
Okay. Okay. All right. I actually, I always talk about that Disney effect as well. So I'm with you with that one. Matthew, you are in the hot seat, my guy. What up? What up? What up? Talk to us.
What up? So, yeah, I think it's important to, at the very least, whenever you first start dating in relationships, like 16 to 18, for sure, whenever you first get started. I think as parents, parents need to be teaching how to really date with intention, so that whenever they get to college, because what's interesting is that in college, I believe personally that you have, I think that that's the last chance that you're going to be in a large pool of diverse people for you to actually go and see what you like, go and see what works, because after that, it's kind of like you're either at work, you're meeting people around work, or it's dating apps, or it's networking groups, right?
Right.
I think that too, we haven't been taught how to work during that hard season of relationships. So a lot of people expect total comfort in relationships. And so I think that presents its own challenges. But I think it's interesting whenever you look at the dynamics between our community and our white counterparts. And I have an interesting kind of an illustration. So I went to Appalachian State, predominantly white institution, and I went to a private school all my life. So I grew up around a lot of white people. And what's interesting is that freshman, sophomore year, everybody had their fun, right? And then junior and senior year, whenever whoever was in relationships, whenever graduation happened, like 80% of my Black peers, they broke up because they got jobs in other areas or whatever have you, and they broke up. Whereas a lot of my white counterparts, they stayed together. They got married. A lot of them started having children at like 25, 26. A lot of them now are on their first or second home. Two kids, kind of near my age right now, 30. And it's really interesting because I think that if I take a look at their households, a lot of, I think it was modeled a little bit differently in their household as opposed to in our community. But I would even say now the biggest thing is that whenever we go to college, we're really taught to go to college to get a job, not really go to college to go find a husband or go find a wife. And I think if you're intentional about that, I think your approach would be different. So I hope that illustrated my thoughts, and I hope that I was clear.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I'm with you with that as well. Anyone else? Anyone else? Feel free. The floor is yours.
So objectively speaking, everybody comes from different backgrounds. So I would say, in short, I would think when someone is emotionally aware, things are different for everyone. If you were sheltered and not taught certain things when you were a child, there's certain things that you shouldn't get into. People that may have gone to college right after high school, there's certain things that you are not exposed to at that moment that has not prepared you for marriage. So even though you can start preparing yourself to be positioned to handle marriage, if you are going to be effective in marriage and you want to have the least amount of issues as possible, I do not think immediately after 17 or 18 or whatever is a time to be getting married, unless you grew up in a family that was well educated, emotionally aware, and that prepared you for that. And I'm going to also throw in the whole religious aspect or the faith aspect. That's also another issue. If you were in a family that was built on a family of faith that taught certain principles that were biblical, and you were, and not religious, but actual biblical principles of faith that helped you in life, then I think that is when you're ready. So if you're 18 and your family grew you into that, then okay, it's okay. But if you graduated high school, your parents wanted to keep you a a child, or let you be a child and let you experience certain things when you get in college. You're still figuring yourself out. So you can't be whole going into something else with someone else if you don't completely know yourself. So I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's effective to have something effective, because you're going to enter into something having issues that you don't necessarily need to have. There's people that get into things out of because of happenstance, not because of an actual thought out choice. Then you have to learn. Like when people have to grow up fast, same thing. So I think that the opportune time is not necessarily any age, but it's when you are emotionally aware about yourself and you have your things together, so you don't bring trouble into somebody else's life or someone else to take care of you. When you're completely an adult, I think that is the best time. But that thing doesn't happen all the time. So that's
So
me.
to follow what you're saying, right? Are you saying that there shouldn't be an age, from what I heard you say? So it could be 30, 40. But what happens to a lot of people that get depressed because they waited till 40, and that's not an opportune time, let's say, to start a family?
I'm gonna also say, if you're depressed when you're 40, then it's a different
There's
issue.
something else.
Yeah, it's a different issue. It's a completely different issue. You're depressed because you're not married at 40. It's a different issue. You're lonely inside. There's something that you're missing, and marriage is not going to fix that anyway. So that's a
I
different
think
issue.
it goes back to what you were saying of that self-work. Like the age doesn't necessarily tell when you're ready, but if you don't know yourself and you didn't spend that time of knowing who you are and being happy with that. Something that I realized too that can be a setback is marriage as idolatry. Marriage or seeing another person being your finished product, that you don't do the work to complete yourself. Like, of course, you should want marriage. You should want to love and have that person. But if you put that above all else, and it's like, oh, I'm 40 and because I don't have this person, my life is, that's a deeper issue. You're still created. You're still here and you're still living. You still have value as yourself. And you should be okay with being alone, or however it is that you're living right now, not thinking that something else is going to fix it. You get what I'm saying? Like marriage is not going to fix you. That job, a house, all, because we'll put things and ideas of that's where my happiness is, right? Oh, well, if I'm not married by this age, that's it. It's over. That's a mental game that you're going to have to fix first. And that's probably what's blocking you from even being able for your person to see you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to take it from a different aspect, right? Because we've been on this panel, at least some of us have been on this panel for quite the time. And, most men don't really care about how well accomplished, achieved, or set you are, because this is why they call it's a groom, right? So, because they want to be able to groom you into the person that they want you to be anyway. So does any of this even really matter, especially when we're talking about age? And our beloved Chill isn't on here to tell us that we are all a part of the bargain basement brand, at the bottom of the barrel. So since I'm just curious, because if we're talking about, like, I feel like in a way we're kind of going back and forth, because on one conversation we'll talk and they'll be like, no, you don't listen to the old women. Y'all need to be getting these men when y'all are young and in your 20s and can pop out all these babies. And they don't really care if you have much of anything, because they want to mold you like the Play-Doh that you are, and then, turn you into a clay mold and throw you in the oven and cast it, right? Because they don't want you to be remolded. They want to take the clay and they want to make the ashtray that they used to do. You know how you make your ashtray when you're in kindergarten and stuff?
They can throw their ash on you.
And then they throw it in the oven and they can bake it. And then now you're a fully made product of what they wanted anyway. So now you're a product of their desires. I don't understand where, and I get what you're saying, Candace, as far as like, it's about age and maturity and things, or just even being mature and knowledgeable of yourself. A lot of that takes time to learn. And a lot of that, if you need that time to learn self, right? But if the self that they want of you is in your 20s, like we have a disconnect somewhere. So somebody tell me, do y'all really give a hot who about how we, show up in that way? Or is it that, no, we want you to be this person, even if you're in your 30s, and now we still have to figure out if your eggs work? Because, that's always y'all worries. Like, we're too old to do things. Like, so
I see Professor going back and forth, about to start moving. I see blockchain straight, blockchain face just straight.
Look, first things first.
Blockchain face
first.
straight.
We have to think about blockchain for 2 seconds, right? He came on this panel wearing that hat, so we already have to worry about his questionable life choices.
Here we go.
Okay? Like, you could have chosen any team on the world for this sport, and you chose them. That already tells me that questionable life choices have been made. So again, I'm okay with it. I take my things how they come. I'm just curious. Do you want us young and dumb so that y'all can mold us, or do y'all want us to be, somewhat older and have a good sense on our heads so that part of the molding is already taking place? It's all good. Y'all just let me know. I just be here. I just be here.
Professor, what up, man?
I'm gonna go last. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I just heard a whole bunch of nonsense from everybody that has gone so far.
Shut up before I don't record with you. Shut up.
I respectfully
we already know what Trumpy Bear about to say. Go ahead, baby. Go ahead. We already know what Trumpy Bear.
Blockchain, I think you're on mute, blockchain.
So we're talking about there should not be an age requirement. That's false. There is an age requirement. As women, I don't care about the outliers. As women, you have a certain time period. Your womb is like aged milk. It's gonna spoil at some point. So if you want to get married and have kids, that needs to be an age range on it. Secondly, I'll get tired of. Hey, I'm getting tired of hearing about I was young and dumb. You're 24, 25. If you was able to go to school and hold down a job, you're not young and dumb. The decisions you made are the decisions you have to live with. I don't want to hear that. Thirdly, I'm getting tired of hearing about the Disneyfication of what's going on. Listen, I saw a white woman live with 7 dwarfs and I saw a broom dance. That's fantasy. If you can't decipher fantasy from real life, then we need to have another conversation. Fourthly, Kendra G's father told her 100% wrong. She should not have tried to do that career. She should have built with that man. She was talking about having a career at $7 an hour. Come on now. The man would have provided a different lifestyle for her, and she still could have had what she wanted. I said this and I say this again. Our women go to school to prove they don't need a man, and other women go to school to prove they to go find a man. So I get tired of hearing women go to school, get these degrees, whatever their degrees are, and then come out with no man. You need to get married early because we need to couple early. I talked about this on another episode of my own show. The median household income in North Carolina, Charlotte, is $78,000. To live comfortably in North Carolina is $92,612. The only way you do it is by coupling. A lot of people aren't coming out. Black men are making 58, black women are making 51. So the only way we're able to live comfortably in the city of Charlotte and other surrounding areas is to couple with each other. Lastly, I know Matt said something. You said, we need to look at our parents. But how can parents teach you intention when they're out here having unintentional children? So that's the issue I have. I can't teach you intention when all my kids were unintentional. When all my kids have 2 or 3 different baby daddies. So at the end of the day, we need to get back to, hey, we're getting married younger, whether you get divorced or not. Because you guys, a lot of you guys were talking out of a lot of people here were talking out of being scared and waiting for this and waiting for that. I've talked about people waiting for God to send them a man, or people blocking their blessings, or I need to find my husband. At the end of the day, you need to be a wife before the man finds you. Period, point blank. So if you're not already a wife, you need to figure that out. And God sent a lot of things, including His Son. So He sent you a man. You got to know how to recognize it. And I'll land my plane.
And thank you, Professor. And I'll take it one step further. That's why the reason I expressed what I saw at Appalachian State, because everyone who wanted families that was white counterparts, they went to school, they found a wife or a husband. By 25, they were married on their first child. We were still doing hot girl summer. That's what it is. I mean, I saw it.
But they're also taught that way, right? Like you go a lot of think about the degrees of a lot of our Caucasian sister counterparts, right? They're not really they're like, oh, I went to school for this, so I went to school for that, because they weren't really trying to go for something where it was like grandiose on their career path or education. They were going to scout with men, with who's in finance. They was husband hunting. They had 4 years to do it. They was out here on the prowl. Whereas we were taught, you don't go to you go to school and you get educated. You find you get into the best programs. You get attached to the best ideas and people. You look at the things that you can help to enact and make change. Like, we weren't taught to go and find a spouse. We were taught to go and be the brightest and the best that we could be, so that when we do hit our career path, we've already got these accolades and things behind us. So I mean, what Matthew was saying, and this is coming. Look, Matthew, I too was educated at the Caucasoids of educational processes. So I do understand. Don't let my Nefertiti braids and
oh man.
I have absolutely been educated. And that is literally how it goes. Like, we were taught a different narrative. The narrative that they were taught were like, you got 4 years to go find you somebody that's going to take care of you for the rest of the 50. Where we was like, we were taught you can't rely on one of them. We were taught you can't rely on one of them to potentially take care of you for the 50. So make sure that no matter what, you can do it yourself. We were taught different narratives, and different outcomes came from those narratives. My 94-year-old grandmother just told me, like, maybe a week and a half ago, like, you come from strong women, right? Like, you ain't grow up to be no wussy. So we ain't wussified around here. My 94-year-old grandmother. Okay. So again, what?
Yeah.
Your Wi-Fi.
And the professor,
that's a comment you chose to highlight.
Yeah, well,
the more she talked, the more blurry she got. It's not my fault. Like,
I was looking at it. Yo, it's so wild, because I was looking at it from my Facebook, and I look clear on Facebook. Like, I don't know what people are seeing. This wild shit.
Yeah, you definitely made a great point. And the professor, I'll touch on a point that because I look at a lot of people's finances, and what's interesting is that I think that you are supposed to build young, and even if the goal is for the husband to become the sole provider, it's okay to start with our money. But I think we're so separated, and what ends up happening is that you're right. The best way to build wealth is together. There's no way this world was not built for single people at all. And I think the other thing that people don't take into account is that we're assuming we're always going to be employed. We're always going to have great health. But what happens when one of those things goes away? And you need a spouse to help you get down the stairs, or to clean your butt, right? Or whatever. And we don't think about those things.
I thought he was going to say clean your attic.
But I was trying not to use profane words on live. So I caught myself like mid-word. But Professor, all great points, and Kit, great points as well.
Somebody was in the comments.
So recognizes good pointedry. I just want to.
So what I've taken from this is that it's our parents' fault that we go to college to prove that we don't need men. It's white people's parents' fault to prove, because they go to college to prove they need to go find a husband. And then it's nobody's fault that what happens to us in the end of the advice we get. Once you're an adult, you're saying your life is the amalgamation of your choices. And what I hate hearing is this: we have this conversation like this about, like, well, what our parents don't realize telling our kids this is, you're encouraging that 3-step cycle that women go through. They go through the whole phase at 18 to 27, the midlife crisis 27 to 30, and then the church girl arc after they're 30. So even in that phase, that's not attractive to men. That's like one of the things you need to understand about marriage is that men, unfortunately, we can control that. So if you want to be selective as a wife, you have to do what it takes to become one prior to, not after you're a girlfriend, not after other stuff. But when women go through these phases, like, I think it's funny how people get older and want to go to church, because nobody chooses God when they're having a good life, when they're in their prime, when they're out here having their hot girl summers. They wait until they're all used up, damaged, tired of men, and then they decide to either become a nurse, a realtor, gay, or a church girl. And
A realtor?
it's super
Realtors.
unfortunate.
How realtors catch you straight?
Because that's what they're all
doing.
doing. And if she has rhythm, she becomes a stripper for a little while. But either way,
Not
though,
rhythm.
like the cold part is women are okay giving God the leftovers. What do we men think we're supposed to get? So now the guys that y'all really want to go find these women who are just good women, the younger ones, which, mind you, necessarily I don't think that way, but the majority of the men that women want the younger, better options that don't have the mileage, the damage, or the miles of dick they've already been through. So now it's unfortunate that that's the commonality, that's the common path that so many women take. They wait until they're older, life's been so hard, and damn, now I want to turn to God because I don't care about morality or God or faith. They do it because they want a new start. They want a new beginning, and they think God is going to give that to them. So I feel bad for Jesus because it seems like he gets the leftovers of the worst of us.
Mm.
That's crazy.
That was heavy.
I can snap to
Yo,
that one.
I got one thing to say.
You feel bad
I'm a
for Jesus
stripper.
because it's the worst of them, but we
And
his
this
children.
is my life.
Hold up, let
Hey.
Jazz get it. What's up, Jazz?
Well, I really just had a question because again, I'm new here, so I don't know, especially Professor and blockchain. One, are you either of you married? Two, you have strong ideations or views of a woman's point, but I also want to hear, since you are a man, how are you being chosen if you're not married, especially, or if you are married, what made you choose? Because it seems that you're speaking a lot about the woman's perspective, which is great. As a strong man, give it. But like you talk about a whole phase, like did you yourself experience a whole phase? Like as a man, can you share your experience and what your path is, what your life cycle is, what are the phases? And if you're not married, why haven't you been?
Professor, I got you. So this is easy. So you said personal experience. Why am I speaking on it? Because I'm a guy that checks off 90% of the boxes that every woman looks for. When you grade us on paper, I check those boxes. So then there's that.
Well,
and then
I do want to clarify. I didn't ask why. It was more so I want to hear your perspective and if you are single.
One of your questions was how are we choosing and why are we choosing that way? This is why. Because I choose the way that I can because I check most of the boxes. I know that if I get with a woman, her parents will be glad that I chose her. I understand that. I understand that her father will be okay. You know what? That guy is okay taking care of my daughter. So knowing that to be the case, no, I'm not married. I've been married before. But the cool part for me is I've had 6 first dates. I've been in 4 long-term relationships. One of them doesn't count because her husband and kids showed up. I know nothing about them, right? But the other 4, I was married, either married to or dated for 5, 6, 7, whatever plus years. So the thing is, for a man in my position not to get married, not being married is easy. I can get married today, or Monday when the court opens, to someone that I actually desire and checks my boxes. The problem with women is y'all think that y'all can get married the same way we can because you confuse guys' sexual attention to like their long-term, like willing to commit to you. And the majority of those men who are committing to y'all, all they're saying is this: hey, I really want to be sleeping with other women, but I'm going to forego that opportunity if I can get to sleep with you regularly. That's all they're doing when they commit to you. And then so the equivalency isn't there. For guys like Professor and myself, we put ourselves in these positions. These aren't ideations we have. These are beliefs we have based on what we've experienced with women. We've been on these panels and others talking to hundreds and thousands of women, and they're all saying the same thing. So, for example, when I said that women have this 3-step arc, I can point to hundreds and thousands of women that have this 3-step arc. And then every time I hear someone say, well, I'm trying to get my walk right with God, look at the age they're in. They're never in their prime. They're never in those young years like, well, damn, where they get all the attention. They've got all of like their best days ahead of them. They wait until it's almost over. So those aren't ideations. Those are things that I can support with, facts, statistics, and then cases. And there's not anecdotal evidence. Most people on this panel in one way or another has pointed out everything I've said to be true. And it's not a knock on women, but it is an observation that I make on women because I don't pull punches for either side. Kit will explain that to you, or I know you're new, but I'm truthful on both sides of it. So again, when y'all come saying,
he made a man cry on another panel, by the way. It was crazy.
We don't.
Wow.
That wasn't his fault. I was talking to his father. I wasn't even talking to him. But the point is that we say these things. Well, excuse me, I'll speak for myself because Professor may be different. When I say these things, it's based on my life experience. I'm not the guy that has an issue getting good women. I'm not the guy that hasn't. The only thing easier to get than a good woman is a glass of water. But that's because I put the work in to be what those women want. That's why. I understand most men can't say that. So most men should not have that opinion. Now I understand where you were trying to go with that. But just understand, like, that direction, where those questions were coming from, won't land over here. I can't speak for Professor, but as far as I'm concerned, like, my name and my reputation speaks for itself.
Well, there was no ill motive in me asking. I truly didn't know you.
Not ill motive. I don't think
yeah,
that there was ill motive, but the direction those questions go from, it's common. But women say, well, why aren't you married? Which is the question you ask. I'm not married because I haven't chosen someone to be. I've been married before. I was married for 14 years. No one else knows that, though. But Professor, same thing. It's not hard for us to get married because we're the ones choosing. So it's hard for us to find women worth choosing, which is, y'all so worried about finding the one instead of being the one.
Hey there, it's the Distinguished Professor. Click here to subscribe to the Distinguished Professor YouTube channel for hard-hitting panel discussion, the hottest reaction videos, and compelling analysis of current events you cannot find anywhere else. Remember, class is always in session. Stay sharp, stay informed, stay distinguished.
This big black man.